Welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you from Hungary here in Central Europe. Originally, I am Canadian, West Coast Canadian from the beautiful city of Victoria. I hope all of our viewers are doing fantastic and excited about this IELTS reading class. This is focusing on academic module. It is going to be a challenging passage. It's passage 3 from our exam number 1. This is a members chat class. Everybody's welcome to watch. We will have an all chat class in 90 minutes that will focus on task 1 academic pie charts. As usual, the lesson is brought to you by our premium online IELTS course available for academic at aehelp.com. And if you are learning for the general version of the exam, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's general IELTS help.com. General IELTS help.com. And while we wait for our members to join in, I will show you what these websites look like. This is our academic website here. You can click that big red button to join. Once you have, then you will have a My Student account. And I think many of our members have our premium package. So I see that Paranjay, Raghuram, Danish, and Daniel are in the class. If you have access to our premium package, viewers, members, click on lesson videos. We just added 6 new speaking samples, and we'll be adding some more. Just darken the screen up so you can see that. So if you click on the speaking section videos, you'll see that there's video 21 all the way to 26. That's just added. So check those out. We'll be adding some more later. Of course, those don't have advertising. They're in HD and all that great jazz. All right. The general version of our website looks like this, and we are also doing some incredible additions to our general version, adding an app, and you can join that as well with the red button. Okay. Paranjay, yeah, time to study hard. Your exam's coming up in about a week. Sounds great. Okay, everyone. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to email me. My email is adrian@aehelp.com. Hi, Kailan. Good to see you in class. A new member. Hi, Zainab. All right. You can get our app, Academic IELTS Help, from your Android or iOS app stores. And again, after this class, we will have a task 1 pie chart for everyone to work on together. And tomorrow we will have a question and answer session for members, and then speaking part 3 for everyone. So that's the schedule for today and tomorrow. Now let's get into our reading passage for the day. So again, this is reading passage 3 from our exam number 1. And this is a bit challenging, but as long as you take the necessary steps, you can do well. Okay, so never get freaked out. Never panic when you see a passage that presents a challenging topic. And definitely in the academic, one of the 3 passages will likely be some challenging topic, okay? Danish, if your goal is to get a 6.5, I think you need to keep practicing a bit more. Another couple months is my suggestion based on the work that you've been sending me, okay? Hi, I'm RG. All right, so let's get into our reading. Reading passage 3, we're going to do this together, members. So we have a picture here. Hopefully that starts to get the ideas flowing in our mind. And then, of course, we read the title, Causes of the American Economic Crisis. What do you think about? So, members, what do you think of when you see this picture and you look at that title, or you read that title. So causes of the American economic crisis, and you see that picture. What do you think of? Okay. So this is a strategy. You should always collect ideas and predict the passage from the picture and the title. So what do you think of when you look at the picture and read the title? Okay, always take a minute to come up with ideas, because you will understand the passage better and you will answer questions more accurately. So Yvonne says the default of the economic system. What is that, Yvonne? So what is the default? Why did it default? What does it mean to default? What did people default on? Okay, so default of the economic system. So Amarjeet says the up and down of the economy. Amarjeet, it says the crisis, so it's probably not the up. Okay. So up and down, sure, let's go up, down of economy. Okay. Raghu has a really good thought. Ram, he says stock market values drop. Drop, in fact, Raghu, we often say if it's a big drop, we say crash. Okay. So Yvonne says money value becomes lower. So that's called, what is that called, Yvonne, when the value of money decreases? Why does this happen? So always think about the why questions. When you're thinking about the title members and you're critically thinking, always think about the why question. So why does money devalue? Why do stocks suddenly drop? What's the cause of that? Okay, so that's a really important tip when you're predicting and thinking about these passages, is always think about the why question. So the example here is, why does money devalue? Why do stocks drop? So why does that happen? Okay, because when you think about that answer, you're probably predicting the passage very accurately. So Shanghung says inflation. So why does inflation happen? Or so why does an inflation or a depression happen? So Amarjeet says maybe because of global competition. Possible. Now the US is a superpower, and for superpowers, global competition is not as much of an impact. Okay, maybe global competition. What else? So why does inflation happen? What do you think? Just visualize it. What happens? Okay, Zainab says subprime mortgages. Okay. Unpredictable political mistakes. What kind of mistakes? Because big companies go bankrupt, says Shang Hung. Okay. Why do companies go bankrupt, Shang Hung? Okay, so that's a good one. Let's take that one step further. You'd be surprised how much information is available in your memory banks, in your brain. What a lot of students and people in general have to work on is not just to learn more information about the world, biology, chemistry, but also to be able to bring that information that you have in your brain to your conscious thinking. That's a very important skill, and I highly suggest always paying attention to practicing using the available information in your brain, because most of you, once you've reached the age of 18, 20, have an incredible amount of information in your mind, and you need to practice using and bringing that information to your conscious forethoughts, okay? So CR7 guy has the right answer. So CR7 guy says they go into debt. Okay. Okay, what's the missing end of this sentence? And then you will have your complete thought. Okay, and then you will have the right prediction. So CR7 guy says companies go into massive debt and people that they cannot, what? What's the missing word or words at the end of my sentence that completes this idea and helps us predict what we're going to read? Okay. Yeah, so Raghu says housing loans become so much that they default because they cannot pay up. Okay? And Barendra says pay back. Absolutely. That's right. So that's your full thought. Okay? So companies and people go bankrupt. Why? Because they go into massive debt and they cannot pay back the loans. Okay? So whose fault is that? So when people and companies cannot pay back their loans, whose fault is that? Let's take it one step further. So who's to blame, right? Because remember, the title is causes of the American economic crisis. So causes means it's probably because people are going bankrupt, banks, companies are going bankrupt, they cannot pay back their loans. Why? Whose fault is that? Who's to blame? Who should we say, yeah, it's because of you, you did it. You're not paying back money. So Barendra says it's the government's fault. Zainab says it's also the fault of the banks. Zainab, why is it the fault of the banks? Okay. And you know what? Let's be honest. It's also the fault of the people's fault. You shouldn't borrow money that you can't pay back. If you make $10 an hour, it's probably not a good idea to take a $500,000 loan on a house when you know that at $10 an hour, it's virtually impossible to pay that back. So it's the government's fault, it's the bank's fault, it's the people's fault. Why is it the bank's fault, Zainab? So it's a good idea. Why? Why is it the bank's fault? So it's the person's fault because if you're making $10 an hour, then to pay back $500,000 while paying for food and gas and other expenses becomes virtually impossible, especially with interest rates, right? And the banks are also at fault because banks shouldn't be lending money to people who can't pay it back, right? Banks are using government money as well, okay? All right, so now you're on the right track, okay? Keep this in mind, members, that you should not blindly begin reading a challenging topic without first critically thinking and gathering as much of your own insight as possible. Is that clear, members? So is that clear why I'm suggesting that? When you see a challenging topic in the IELTS exam, if you just blindly start reading, if you're like, okay, I'm just going to start reading and hopefully I understand, you will likely be more confused as you keep reading and coming across challenging ideas and information than ever before. You really need to stop and use about 3-4 minutes of your time to say, okay, I remember what I learned. I remember what I need to do. I need to critically think about this topic and this idea before I begin reading. Otherwise, I'm going to be in a problematic situation. Is it clear why you need to do this with challenging topics? Not just to blindly start reading. Definitely don't skim and scan for a topic like this because it's going to be even more confusing. Okay? If you try to skim and scan for a challenging idea that's difficult to understand even in one's own language potentially. Okay? Yeah, that's right, Zainab. So nice. I see that you answered my last question. So not borrow money, Zainab, but lend money for all economic classes of people. Okay? Yeah. All right. So now that we've done our critical thinking, now we're mentally ready to consider this. And Yvonne says, how much time should we spend thinking about this topic? Again, that's a good question, Yvonne. The more challenging the topic, the more time you should spend. For a topic like this that seems to be quite challenging as soon as I read the title, then I should spend about 3-4 minutes, up to 3-4 minutes, okay, thinking about, okay, what is this? Why is this? How does this work? What do I know about this? Can I compare this to a situation in my own country or in the history books that I read before, or the economics books, business books? So what can I think of? What can I think of when I look at pictures about the stock market? Okay, so all of those considerations. So about 3-4 minutes, Yvonne, when the topic is challenging. Now, if I have difficulty understanding the title, so if I read the title and I go, Causes of the American Economic Crisis, what is that? Like, what does that mean? What should I do? So I can't start critically thinking about a title that I don't understand. So if I don't understand the title, sometimes that happens. So sometimes students say, I read the title and I have no idea what it means. What should I do? Good. Yeah. Amarjit says, read the questions. The questions might help you think about the topic. So the questions usually will discuss the topic a bit more. They kind of summarize the information. So you can read the questions and then think more deeply about the information. So good, Amarjit. Very good. Okay, I'm very happy that you're picking up the information in classes. So if the topic or the title is unclear, read the questions that contain information in the passage. Okay. And then start thinking critically about the information. Yeah, so don't just give up, don't panic. Okay, that's the worst step that you can take. All right. So let's do that. Let's look at the questions. So first, here we go. Yes, no, not given. Should I read that? Zainab, very good. That's the other step that you can take, is read the first sentence. So let's first do the questions. So here are some yes, no, not given questions. Should I read these ones before the passage? I'm sure this is a review for most of you, hopefully. And I guess you're mostly typing, most of you saying nope. Yeah, don't read those ones. Absolutely, because these might not be in the passage. So the passage might not even be about this information. So don't read it. No, leave it. Okay. So now we have complete each sentence with the correct ending. Okay. So this one, we have 3 questions or statements in this case. We have to complete them. And then we have 6 choices. So half of the choices are wrong or not in the text. So we leave the choices. We don't read the choices. We just read these. These will help us. These three statements can help us understand. So banks have a responsibility to. Each bank is responsible for. A recession is started when. Okay, good. So now we know that something about the causes of the American economic crisis is connected to banks, and something about recession. If you don't know the word recession, it's okay. Don't worry about it. All right, and then we have a summary completion. And this one is very good to read before the passage. It says the American government's role. So now we have a second title, something about the government. So now we know that it's something about the banks, something about the government. Fantastic. We have more information to help us. Okay, so let's read it together. It is the American government which is arguably the most responsible for the economic crisis. In order to properly, people must be sheltered from possible problems created by. Regulation is required in any society in order to coerce people into acting for the benefit of. Government is in place to serve its citizens, and in this case, it has failed. Apologists will say that the recession is just on the radar of American supremacy, while others say that such bumps on the road are of serious problems. Regulations is the solution to the problem, but the American of independence and small government will be very difficult to crack. Okay, so definitely something about the government. All right, great. So I'll make a note of what Zainab said. So Zainab said the other point that might help is read the first sentence. Zainab, I would say read the first paragraph. Okay, so the other help that you can get is read the introductory paragraph, then stop for a minute before you read the body paragraphs and think about, okay, what is this passage going to be about? Pay special attention to the thesis statement, so the last sentence usually of the body paragraph, okay? CR7 guy says, how do you type so fast? I do a lot of typing, CR7 guy, and I learned touch typing a long time ago. That's a good question, CR7 guy. If anybody is doing the computer-based version of the IELTS exam, I really, really highly recommend training yourself to touch type. That means not looking at your fingers, but looking at the screen while you're typing. You should not do the computer-based IELTS exam if you cannot touch type. Then you should do a paper-based exam, okay? A really good free software that you can find, CR7 guy, online is, and it's absolutely free. It's an awesome free piece of freeware online. It's called Rapid Typing Tutor. Google that, download it, okay? Use it for 30 minutes a day. Start with basic. And you will learn to touch type in 3 weeks. I guarantee it. Okay, it's a beautiful piece of software. It's free. It's simple. It's called Rapid Typing Tutor. And it's a great way to learn English. Okay, because it's an English piece of software and you have to type in English. So you're actually hitting two birds with one stone. So that's a little anecdote to today's lesson. It's a good question, CR7 guy. Rapid Typing Tutor, absolutely a beautiful free piece of software. That's what helped me to learn how to touch type many years ago. It uses English phrases, sentences, paragraphs It's a great piece of software. Try it out. Okay. Thanks for that question. All right, so let's get back to point here. So we have an idea of our passage. Now we're going to read, and then we're going to answer. Sounds good? Everybody's ready to do this? Ready to read with me? Make sure that you read together with me, not just listen to me, okay? Practice your reading. Focus on understanding as much as possible, okay? Here we go. Let's do this. So, causes of the American economic crisis. Let me maximize this. When discussing the causes of the late 2000s economic subprime mortgage crisis, it is easy to lay all the blame on the banks. But it is incorrect to claim innocent the individual homebuyers involved, as well as the American government as a whole. There are many instances in the years leading up to the crisis where moral obligations failed to be met. For the homebuyers, it is a case of ignoring a scenario which was, upon deeper inspection, too good to be true. For the bankers, it was falling prey to their own laissez-faire loaning policies, lending without giving much interest to the mandates required of the borrower. For the government, it was instituting such a laissez-faire system in the first place, free of regulatory checks and balances. Okay, good. So here, you're right, Zainab. The first sentence helps us, okay? It says we lay the blame on the banks, but it's incorrect to claim innocent the individual, so the individual is also to blame, as well as the American government. So the first sentence tells us that banks, the individual, and the government are the causes of the economic crisis. Members, any new vocabulary in this first paragraph? So do you see any new vocabulary? Any words that you're unfamiliar with? So Puranjay says laissez-faire. Laissez-faire actually, Puranjay, comes from French. We use it in English in business. It means very relaxed, so very loose and relaxed, okay? But it's actually a French word. So laissez-faire. We don't really use this in everyday language. We use it in business situations. So it means relaxed, easygoing. Okay? So not worrying or not caring too much. Okay? That's what that means. Any other words other than that French origin, laissez-faire? Okay. So laissez-faire means very relaxed. So basically means the bank is lending people money without really caring about how much money they make, what kind of job they have, what kind of credit history they have. Okay. Yeah, Monal, you'll see that in an economic newspaper or in economics for sure. Any other word in here other than laissez-faire? No? It's clear? All right. Okay. Let's keep going. Here we go. If a person falls prey to an email scam, the blame is deservedly placed on the hapless person. Society feels pity for them, but nobody feels the government should reimburse the individual for their lack of caution. The person in this scenario has affected no one but themselves. If a person falls prey to a too good to be true subprime mortgage and ends up bankrupt, he or she is not just hurting themselves, they are also hurting society because that debt inevitably rests with the populace. Thus, while a person has no social responsibility to act a certain way in the case of the email scam, A person does have social obligation when it comes to actions that can hurt society, such as taking on a subprime mortgage. The counter argument here is that people perceive banks as possessing a certain level of trustworthiness, and that it is unreasonable to expect people to have their too good to be true radar active when dealing with banks. Nevertheless, people do have an ethical obligation to be aware of pitfalls, and being told it's okay by trustworthy institutions is simply not a sufficient excuse. Okay. All right. So Zainab says from the last paragraph the word mandates. Okay. Mandates is a noun, Zainab. Okay. And when you see new words, so thank you, Zainab, for that one. So Zainab says, here it says mandates. So giving much interest to the mandates required from the word the article. We know that mandates is a noun, okay? And when you're at home, Zainab, and you're reading a passage like this, if this is a new word, underline it. Take a moment. In your vocabulary sheet, write out the word mandates, and then write an example sentence. When you write an example sentence, you need to remember 3 important points. What 3 important points do you need to remember? So you'll look it up in the dictionary, and you'll remember it's the definition is actions that must be taken, requirements that need to be fulfilled. Okay, that's what mandates means. And then you write an example sentence. So you write out the definition, you mark the word form, and then you write an example sentence. And your example sentence has to include 3 key elements so that your brain can hold the information and use the information. So use the word mandate. Okay. Mandate, students, comes from the word mandatory, or mandatory comes from the word mandate. Okay. Mandate, mandatory. Notice how they're very similar. All right. Mandatory, mandate. So, 3 important elements have to be included in your example sentence. If you're using our premium course on our website, you should have seen this at the beginning of the course when you're learning new vocabulary. So write an example sentence in your vocabulary book that is complex, unique, and includes you. Okay? So those are the 3 elements. Okay? So it has to include you, it should be unique, and it should be a complex sentence. The mandate at the theme park where I went bungee jumping last week was to wear a helmet even though it would really be useless if the cord were to break. Okay, so that's a very complex sentence, but that's the idea, all right? So the mandate at the theme park where I went bungee jumping last week was to wear a helmet even though it would really be useless if the cord were to break. So that's very visual. I've got my helmet on. I'm at the theme park and woohoo, I'm bungee jumping. I have my helmet because the requirement, the mandate at the theme park is that everybody who's bungee jumping has to wear a helmet. Really though, a helmet, if I hit the ground from that height, not much use, all right? So it's visual, it's unique, it includes me, and it's complex, all right? This kind of example will help you remember, retain, and use new vocabulary that you get from the reading passages. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Yes? No? Hopefully. Okay. Let's keep going. So we just read a paragraph about the individual. The individual has to be responsible when they're borrowing money from banks for houses because it affects greater society. Okay? All right. Here we go. Next paragraph. Let's read together. Banks have a responsibility to protect their customers and to look out for the general economic health of not just their company, but of the entire industry. Okay, so before I was reading about the individual, now I'm reading about the bank in this paragraph. What do you think I will read about in the next paragraph? So I just read about the individual's responsibility for an economic crisis. Now I'm reading about the bank's responsibility. And what will I read about next? Yeah, very good, Raghu. The government, absolutely, right? So there's logic, there's structure in the reading passages, okay? All right, I'll come back to that, Manal, okay? All right, so the American banks failed in these considerations in each of these regards. First, they offered mortgages to millions of ill-qualified buyers who were clearly not going to be able to fulfill the requirements of the mortgage to make the loans viable. Individual lenders acted selfishly, exploiting very relaxed lending policies. The very relaxed lending policies, that's the laissez-faire lending policies, to benefit their own finances. Second, banks failed to look after the health of their own companies. This is not a failure of individual bankers, but a failure of those in management positions. Many US companies that need a multi-billion-dollar bailout are an unmitigated disaster. Although this failure falls more in line with the email scam, that is to say a failure which is not social failure but a business failure, the social failure lies in the bank's obligation to the entire industry and the economy as a whole. Each bank is responsible for a small piece of the economic pie. If one bank fails, it appears as a blip on the radar. However, with each individual failure, the threshold for failure for the remaining companies is lowered. It is in this sense that the companies have a moral obligation to do good business, because if they do not, they raise the chance of bankruptcy for each of their competitors and the economy as a whole. Eventually, the threshold of failure is so low that almost all lending has to cease, and a recession is ignited. Whew! All right, so a lot of complex phrasing, vocabulary in there. Don't panic. Again, don't overthink it. When you have a challenging reading passage, the explanations are redundant. So this part of the paragraph is repeated here. And simply, the paragraph is saying that banks have to be careful because if a bank goes out of business, it increases the chance of another bank going out of business, and it's a domino effect. So one bank fails, boom, the next bank fails, boom, the next bank fails, boom, the next bank, and it's like a domino. One bank is failing after the other. Ignite, Amarjeet, means to light a fire. So you ignite a fire. Ignite is a way to say light. Okay. Blip, Monal, just like as it sounds, blip, 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 blip. Okay, if you have a radar that's looking for boats, then boom, 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 boom. That's a blip on the radar. Okay, so Monal, you got the radar, and then you got the little thing that's moving around like a clock, and then, oh, there's a boat, there's a boat, there's a boat. When that goes boop, boop, that's a blip on the radar. Okay. Make sure you're underlining these words and adding them to your vocabulary sheet with definition and a unique complex sentence that includes you. Okay? All right. Barendra, bailout means to save someone. If I bail out my friend from a bad date, okay, or a date that's gone bad, then I'm saving my friend. So bailout means to save or to rescue. Yeah, that's right, Raghu, to rescue. Okay, very good. Think about a boat. When you have a boat, it's full of water, it's sinking. You use a bail. A bail is another word for a bucket, and you bail out the water. You try to save the boat. Okay. Kalyan, unmitigated means uncontrolled. Means there's nobody controlling it. Unmitigated, uncontrolled. Okay. All right, let's keep going, everyone. Good questions. Let's keep going. Here we go. In this investigation of blame placing, arguably the body who holds the most responsibility is the American government. The truth is that if people are not protected from themselves by the government, society cannot function well. The wholly free market is akin to an economic version of Hobbes's state of nature, people acting like tigers and bears trying to get at each other's money. Society does not work optimally when it pays overwhelming dividends for people to act selfishly. It takes regulation and economic policy to force people into acting in society's best interest. One of the duties of a government is to protect its citizens from each other. And in this case, the American government has failed catastrophically. Defenders of the free market will claim that this recession is simply a temporary bump in the road of what is arguably the greatest economic power in world history. They will claim that the free market is in the best interest of everyone, despite its rather unsightly undercarriage. In response, it can be argued that the bumps in the road are symptomatic of a system in need of healing by means of regulation. Unfortunately, American culture is such that any regulation is seen as government interference in private affairs, and such intervention conflicts with American ideals. Economics is not the only arena where this belief system is played out. Americans continue to allow their poorest citizens to live without proper health care, and they put the burden of the cost of higher education directly on students. Many European countries fully subsidize higher education. Until this distaste for government intervention is cast aside, events like the subprime mortgage crisis will continue to occur. Whether they are merely bumps on the economic road or signs of forthcoming systemic collapse, in both cases, the government has failed to fulfill their role to save citizens from themselves. In regard to subprime mortgages, regulation of banking is like an insurance policy for the economy. It may lower profits, insurance policies cost money, but it smooths out the bumps in the road. As long as the American government continues to turn a blind eye to these insurance policies, they will continue to put the social well-being of its citizens at risk. All right. Yes, Paranjay, akin means similar to or like. Okay, like. All right, so again, a long paragraph discussing the American government's role in this crisis. If you didn't understand every detail, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let's answer some questions together. So, number 27, those that fall for common scams deserve to be compensated by society. This is yes, no, not given, not true, false, not given. So, 27, what's the correct answer? Those that fall for common scams deserve to be compensated by society. According to the author, what would the author say after we read this passage? CR7 guy says false. Okay, CR7 guy, you're right. Just make sure you answer correctly. It's not false, it's no. Okay, so change your answer to no instead of false, and you'll get it correct. Be very careful about that, students. So if it's a yes, no, not given, if you write false or F in the answer sheet, you'll get it wrong, okay? So CR7 guy, you're right. It's no. Okay, why? Why is it a no? What's the logic? Yep, Barendra, good. You said no. Why is it a no? Why no? Why would the author say that those that fall for common scams do not deserve to be compensated? So it means if I lose money because somebody tricks me, then the government or the bank doesn't have to give me my money back. Okay? So CR7 guy says it's clearly stated that they're responsible for their own demise. Paranjay says no, because it's their own mistake. Yeah, remember the email scam, right? So it's in the second paragraph. It's very visual. So if a person falls prey to an email scam, the blame is deservedly placed on the person. Society feels pity for them. We feel sorry for them. We're like, oh, it's too bad. But nobody feels the government should give them their money back, right? So there's your answer right there. Okay. Again, take the steps that we covered yesterday. So remember yesterday I said all you have to do is think about it. Is it important for this topic whether or not people should be compensated for their mistakes? Yes, it's important. Should they be compensated for their mistakes like this? No, absolutely not. Okay? And many of us feel that banks shouldn't be either, but they are. All right, here we go. Number 28. Many home buyers are too young and irresponsible. Number 28. Many home buyers, many people that buy houses, are too young and irresponsible. Yes, no, not given. 28. What do you think? What's the answer? Don't take too long. Manal says not given. Shangheng says not given. CR7 guy says not given. All right, very good. Yeah, it's not given. It's not given. Why would the author talk about the age of a home buyer? It doesn't matter. You could be old. You could be young. You could borrow money and not pay it back. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's not given. Okay? There's no point for the author to discuss the age of a home buyer for the American public. That includes people of all ages. Okay, 29. Society trusts the banking system. Yes, no, not given. 29. Society trusts the banking system. For this topic, is it important? Should we talk about it? Yeah, probably. Is it important or not? Yeah. It's important, and yes, people trust the banking system. I mean, let's not overthink it, right? Most of us have a bank account. I know I wouldn't give my money to the bank if I didn't trust them to keep my money safe. I might not be happy about it all the time, but I certainly hope that they're trustworthy. So yes is the answer. Very good. So far, so good. See, it's not that terrible once you use critical thinking and you read the passage. Now, the passage seemed really long and difficult, but we read it, and now we're well equipped to answer these questions. Number 30, homebuyers have an ethical obligation to beware of trustworthy institutions. So the last one, number 30, homebuyers have an ethical obligation to beware of trustworthy institutions. It means people who buy houses morally must be cautious or careful of banks or other lenders that are seemingly trustworthy. If you're going to borrow $500,000 for a house, yeah, you should probably consider the effect it has on society, not just on your own life. Is it important for this? Yes, it is. Is it true? Many of you are saying, yes, it is. So, no, not given. Yes. Yes, those are the answers. Good job, members. Good job. I'm really proud of you. Okay. Here are the last set of questions. Banks have a responsibility to. Each bank is responsible for. A recession is started when? Here are the answer choices. Okay, as you can guess, I'm going to leave these last questions for you to do for homework. And members, this is only for members. If you send me your answers, I will send you the answer key and let you know how you did, okay? So if you're a member, answer these last questions. Try to do most of them without necessarily reading the passage again. The video will be up on the channel soon, okay? Send it to me by email. Yeah, that's right, CR7 guys. Send it to me by email and I'll respond with the answer key, okay? So that's it for this class. Lots of valuable information there about vocabulary, what to do when you're answering a challenging topic. Make sure to practice this. And yes, students, viewers, the IELTS academic does have reading passages at this difficulty. Students who have taken the exam know this. They say, yeah, fair enough. I've seen reading passages that are just as challenging as that in the official exam. So be ready for it. Okay, my email, adrian@aehelp.com. And for all of our viewers, make sure to join our premium package, aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general. In 30 minutes, I will be back with task 1 academic, pie chart question, a new question, of course, and we'll do an example essay together. Everybody's welcome to join the chat. It's going to be open for all viewers. You're very welcome, CR7 guys. Zainab, Kleber, good on you for hanging in there in this challenging class. And hopefully, I will see you in 30 minutes. Bye for now.